Simon, what's the feeling after that one? Sort of like frustration? I guess you had your chances.
Yeah, frustrating, but disappointed and angry at the same time. I thought our start was way off. If you take the result away from it, you're looking to build unconditional behaviours and unconditional in the way that you play, and we're trying to build something. And when you start like that, it's probably the second time in the last 4 weeks where we're a fair way off from a role execution and an intensity of the game. That's incredibly frustrating and angry, because that was probably the part of the game that really cost us the game. There were some fundamentals. It was a scrappy game. We had opportunity, and we probably dominated the territory battle after that. But when you give a team a lead, that's what happens. Yeah, you suffer the consequences from an outcome perspective. So frustrated, angry, but reality that's not acceptable.
Were you pretty strong in your messaging around that to the players after?
Absolutely. We're in this to build something. And I've said to them, we're not wasting a game, a week, a training session to get better in what we want to build. And clearly, when you watch the last 3 quarters, you can see something. But it's got to be unconditional in terms of how you start the game and how you execute your role to a high level all the time. And that's really been the story of a big part of our year, the inconsistency from quarter to quarter, week to week. And that's what we need to grow from and learn from. And that was the reality tonight. The first quarter and a half, we're down by 19, 20 points on a wet, slippery night at the MCG. It's a tough way to come back.
Was it execution or intent in that first half?
It was our execution of our role, clearly, and the intent that we have in the game. 20 inside 50s to 8, and I think we had 7 tackles in the first quarter. So, to a team that's pretty hungry, obviously. So, credit to Carlton. They came out and started the game with the right intent, and that it cost us the game.
Seemed like there was a shift in intensity after half-time. Was there a change in modes that you communicated to the players, or was it just a reiteration about why you were here and what the plan was?
It was a little bit of both. We had to change some things, clearly, in terms of how we were playing, and we had to get back to some of the things that we wanted to start the game with. So there was a bit of both, and clearly you could see it was a different start in the third quarter, and we were able to get that scoreboard back. But as the game went on, I thought we got desperate, for the result. We gave away 9 free kicks in that last quarter. But that's the situation sometimes you put yourself in, that you're chasing the scoreboard, you're chasing an outcome, and that can take you further away from that outcome. So they're the 2 big lessons for us. Start the game the right way, and then don't get desperate and undisciplined on the way back. So there's a couple of really big lessons in it for us, and that's why we're frustrated and angry.
You
go.
You sure?
Yep, go for
These moments are what makes this great. It seemed like they were able to capitalise on the front half turnover game. I think they got a few extra than you, but they scored 31 from that. Was there anything with the ball movement, with a bit of a rotating back line, that you want to tighten up in the coming weeks, or anything you saw that was a bit weaker tonight?
Yeah, I thought, we didn't probably move the ball effectively the way that we would have liked to, especially in that first half. We were able to change a little bit of that at half time, and I thought we got better quality up the field, which was pleasing. But that's been a work in progress for us. We've actually got that in a pretty reasonable space across the season, but we need to tighten up defensively and be more consistent in that area to really be a really good team.
You were giving each other a spare at the start, and I think, was it you guys that made the call to match it up a bit? Because that seemed to change the tone of the game.
Yeah, look, there were certain times in the game when there was momentum and you need to support the contest that little bit more, and there were other times where we wanted to open it up, and they're the type of levers that you pull in the game to try and get the game the way you want it. And I thought the players adjusted to those, certainly after quarter time, really well, and that enabled us to get our way back into the game.
That collision between May and Evans, what did you make of that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. What do you think? Well,
there's a fraction of a second in it, right?
Yeah, look, Steve's whole intent was to get the ball, clearly. You can see it, even if you slow it down, his whole intent was to win the ball. And it's really unfortunate. You get a concussion in the game, and sometimes you can be concussed without being reported, and it's going to be one of those ones that we'll have to go through the process. But if you just look at his pure intent, it was purely for the ball, and it was unfortunate. And in the end, similar to Stephen, he's walked away with a concussion himself late in the game with a knee in a marking contest. There's times in the game where you suffer concussion, and unfortunately, for both teams, they had one.
So he'll miss regardless anyway.
Yep.
Next week.
How was it looked like it impacted him, the hit itself. How was he in that short period before the concussion after that hit?
So
It looked like he was a little bit impacted by the hit, not only physically, but he seemed to show a little bit of remorse.
he had to come off for the blood rule, and he just said, I didn't have any other option. I was going for the ball, and that's how it came up. That was his comments as he came to the bench. It was a surprise to anyone.
Is there anything the game could do, you think, to change that sort of impact, or anything the game should do, or is that just part of footy now?
I think we're doing an unbelievable job at trying to eradicate concussion. We don't want to see it in the game, clearly, and it's important that we limit as much as we can. But there will be football incidents where someone is concussed. So, we'll keep learning, keep getting better at it, I'm sure. But I think the overarching thing is we don't want to see concussion in the game.
Clayton Oliver, his 200 games sort of seemed to fly a little bit under the radar this week. How did you celebrate it internally? What did you make of his performance tonight?
Yeah, look, we certainly celebrated internally. He's been an incredible player for the Melbourne Footy Club. A 4-time best and fairest winner and a 3-time All-Australian, and had an incredible 200 games of footy. So we certainly celebrated it. He had 30 family and friends here tonight to really enjoy that moment. And I thought tonight, it was a pretty decent battle. He and Cripps going head to head around the ball, and in the end, with Carlton winning, it's they both played pretty strong games of footy.
You yourself reaching 200 games as well as coach, have you had a chance to reflect on what that means for yourself, but also for the club?
Yeah, certainly did last week. We're able to reflect a little bit on that and the journey of coaching, and as I said, I've been really fortunate to be a part of a really strong footy club, and go on that journey with this playing group. And I'm as passionate as ever is to once again build another really, really strong footy team, and that's the plan. And we've made some inroads in some areas, but tonight again it showed we've still got plenty of work to do.
What do you want your players to focus on in the run home for the rest of the week? If you had to give them lessons now, what would they be?
Be really clear about what a good team looks like and the process that sits within it. And one of those processes we learnt pretty hard tonight. And keep improving and don't waste any time. We're not going to waste any time. We're not in the game of just resetting and go again next year. We've got 5 games of footy where we want to keep improving, keep getting better, keep driving the standard we want, and then we'll get a chance to reset. But we can make some huge inroads in 5 weeks.
Just one more on Oliver. You talk about the transition of the team, and obviously your midfield's evolving. What sort of role do you see him playing in that, not just for the rest of this year, but going forward?
Yeah, look, we've the first part of Clayton's was to get him back, really healthy, and the chance we got this year with him is to really build another strong pre-season with him. He's made some inroads. He's still got work to do to become the elite player that he wants to be again, and that's our plan, is to build him back to that position. There's parts of his game at the moment that are heading in the right direction, and we're just going to keep working with him and get him there.
Because he kicked 5, I think, early in the game, but last quarter he played pretty exclusively in the midfield. Is it hard to get the balance right for such a dynamic attacking player who's so talented at winning the ball? Where do you see him playing his best footy for you guys?
Exactly what he's doing right now, midfield and forward. I think what you're saying, he's having an exceptional year. Like anyone that's averaging over 20 disposals and over 2 goals a game, you're a pretty special player and you're doing a lot right. So we'll continue to put him in the midfield and forward and let him have all the impact he can. He's a pretty special player tonight, that's for sure.
I think you were plus 30 for marks, plus 7 or so for contested. Is there a bit of a thought that you didn't make the most of that aerial advantage with the set ball, or do you think it was just a tough night due to the conditions?
Yeah, look, post-quarter time, we gave ourselves opportunities. We've ended up having, nearly 30 shots at goal. 9 times we didn't even register, a score. We gave ourselves enough opportunity in the last 3 quarters to win the game. But that's not why we didn't win the game. We didn't win the game because we didn't start the game with the right intensity. And that's end of story.
Thanks, Simon.